Assumption 1. Too new to fail. Why did a flower bulb once cost more than a mansion? Because we assumed it's too novel to fail. It is the early 17th century, and the air is heavy with the scent of a golden age. Newspapers are circulating in Amsterdam, spreading news faster than before. In Italy, Galileo and his telescope are revealing a universe far larger than imagined. In England, Harvey has just proved that the heart is the engine of our life. Ships of the Dutch East India Company are returning with spices, silk, and stories of exotic lands. And it is in this fever of discovery that the next big thing arrives, the tulip. Once a hobby for gardeners, tulips became status symbols. Owning one signalled success, and signalling success is irresistible. Fueled by this pent-up demand, many spotted the opportunity for a get-rich-quick scheme. By 1634, tulips stopped being flowers. They became bets and prizes. At the height of the mania, the most prized tulip bulb could buy a luxury mansion along an Amsterdam canal. In February 1637, the music stopped. At a routine auction, a buyer hesitated, then another. Confidence evaporated, and the fever of the bubble burst with it. 400 years later, the frontier had moved. It was the internet, and the world felt like another golden age. We were discovering .coms. This time, the euphoria had a mascot, Pets.com, a company that spent $1.2 million on a 30-second TV ad for a sock puppet, selling dog food online, even though every order lost money. Its stock price didn't care, it soared. But the crown jewel of that era was the AOL Time Warner merger, a digital startup swallowing a media empire built over 75 years. Then, just like the tulips in 1637, the music stopped. Tech stocks collapsed 80%, Pets.com shut down, and AOL Time Warner ended in a $99 billion write-down. From tulips to the .com boom, we have seen how fast values can explode. But value can also erode. Rome shows us how. Assumption 2. Too much to fail. How do you pay for an empire you can no longer afford? By assuming money, once it becomes too much, cannot fail. The Roman Empire we imagine, gladiators, feasts, and conquest, entered the 1st century with money that meant something. Its silver coins were nearly pure. As Rome expanded, so did the cost of armies, bureaucracy, and power. Rather than raise taxes, emperors chose an easier path: create money. Silver was diluted with copper. Each new coin still bought a loaf of bread, but contained less silver. It worked. So the practice continued year after year, emperor after emperor. By the year 300, Roman coins held almost no silver at all. And as the metal eroded, so did trust. Slowly, silently, confidence in the money weakened. And with it, the foundations of a system that had endured for 4 centuries. By the 20th century, there was confidence that the Roman problem had been solved. Money was now backed by gold. Then came October 1929. Markets crashed. Wealth vanished. Unemployment surged. This was the start of the Great Depression. Governments faced a dilemma the Romans once had: how to pay for rising costs when revenues disappeared. The response was familiar. At the trough of the crisis, the United States cut the dollar's gold backing by 40%. Each dollar still bought the same loaf of bread, but was backed by less gold. It worked, so the practice continued year after year. Until 1971, when the then President Richard Nixon ended the rule that dollars had to be backed by gold. The power to create money was fully unleashed during the Great Financial Crisis in 2008. As the global financial system teetered on collapse, trillions were created almost overnight. It worked. And in the years that followed, it kept working. Money supply expanded by tens of trillions of dollars. Debt levels surged. Balance sheets swelled. From all this new money, two different ideas grew. The birth of digital currencies tied to mathematical rules, a challenge to today's money system, and renewed calls for a return to the gold standard. Rome taught us how value erodes, but value doesn't always decay. Sometimes it's invented, and when something is famous, no one asks if it's real. Assumption 3. Too famous to fail. If you were a Wirecard shareholder in June 2020 and woke up to the news that £1.9 billion was missing from the balance sheet, you probably won't panic at first. You assumed it was an error or even a clickbait. After all, Wirecard was the pride of German tech, the first fintech to join the country's elite stock index. It was led by a CEO who graced tech conference stages, audited by the best, regulated by the state, a hole that large couldn't simply go unnoticed. But the reality was devastating. 1.9 billion asset was not missing, it was fictitious. Warnings had been raised for a decade, so why did the illusion hold? Because Wirecard wasn't a company, it was a story. Marketed as Germany's answer to PayPal, it wrapped itself in national champion status. High-priced lawyers aggressively targeted critics and whistleblowers. Regulators questioned the journalists, not the company. The CEO was celebrated as a visionary, an A-list speaker, a hero, a rock star. And so the most devastating question was never asked loudly enough. Where is the cash? Wirecard was about fake numbers. But what if the money is real and the amount so vast that it's assumed to be legitimate? Assumption 4. Too rich to fail. Extreme wealth has always announced itself with spectacle. Once it was palaces and gold. Today it's jets, yachts, and occasionally a 150 million-year-old dinosaur. In December 2024, at a prestigious auction house in London, a mysterious buyer paid £12.4 million for 3 dinosaur fossils over 150 million years old. To those in the room, this was an ultra-high net worth collector acquiring rare history. It wasn't. The buyer was a key suspect in Singapore's $3 billion money laundering investigation. On August 15, 2023, as Singapore police raided bungalows to arrest suspects, he fled to neighbouring Malaysia and boarded a flight out. A week later, he bought 9 luxury apartments in London and publicly bid on dinosaur fossils and high-value art at elite auctions. Why was a man linked to a global money laundering probe able to buy half of London and 3 dinosaurs' fossils? Because extreme wealth creates its own legitimacy. When tens of millions arrive confidently, our first question is often not, where did this come from? Instead, we ask, how can we help you invest it? Wealth became the proxy for due diligence. Skepticism fades. Questions feel unnecessary. Banks assumed the lawyers had checked. Lawyers assumed the accountants had. In reality, no one fully had. 3 months after the auction, the UK's National Crime Agency stepped in. When the story behind the money fell apart, everything went with it. Apartments, art, even the dinosaurs. When wealth is extreme, we stop asking questions. When institutions are old, we stop expecting failure. That assumption destroyed Barings. Assumption 5. Too old to fail. At 5:46 a.m. on January 17, 1995, a 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck Kobe, Japan. It also sent a shockwave through the financial world, striking the heart of the 233-year-old Barings Bank. Barings wasn't just any bank, it was the banker to the British royal family. It had survived the Napoleonic Wars, the Great Depression, and 2 world wars. Banks like that aren't supposed to fail. But as the ground shook in Japan, the bank's foundations in Singapore were already giving way, their cracks hidden behind the apparent success of star trader Nick Leeson. Because of his extraordinary profits, Leeson was allowed to do the unthinkable. He placed the trading bets and reported the results himself. He was the player, the referee, and the scorekeeper. And so he was able to hide his losses in a secret account, error account 88888. When Leeson's bets on the Japanese market were hit hard by the Kobe earthquake, he didn't stop. He doubled down, dramatically increasing his positions, hiding the mounting losses in account 8888. Within weeks, the account exploded to £827 million in losses, nearly twice the bank's capital base. Barings Bank, founded in 1762, collapsed and was sold for £1. 233 years of history evaporated overnight. Barings was an isolated failure. Fast forward 3 decades to the high-speed internet era. In March 2023, stress spread in days, and our assumptions collapsed. Too big to fail giants and too small to matter players fall in the same domino effect. Assumption 6. Too small or too big to fail. In the world of money, crypto had been the most electrifying story of the past decade. Bitcoin surged from under $1,000 to nearly $70,000. Exchanges scaled faster than traditional banks ever could. Startups reached billion-dollar valuations without profits. It worked, until March 2023, when money became expensive again. FTX, one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges, had already collapsed. Confidence was fragile, the hunt for cracks was on. And they found them. It began with Silvergate, a niche bank serving the crypto industry. Weeks after FTX collapsed, customers pulled their money out so fast that Silvergate could no longer operate. Under pressure, on Wednesday, March 8th, Silvergate announced it would shut down. That same day, concern spread to Silicon Valley Bank, the go-to bank for startups. Within 48 hours, withdrawals flooded the bank, totaling $42 billion. Panic then jumped to Signature Bank, another lender linked to crypto, triggering a new wave of withdrawals. By the end of the week, both Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank were shut down by regulators to contain the fallout. But nerves were still tight. When the new week began, attention turned to the weakest link amongst banking giants. Credit Suisse stood out. Trust had been eroding for years, worn down by spy scandals, billion-dollar failures, and a revolving door of leadership. So when its largest shareholder said it would not pump in more money, patience snapped. 167 years of trust vanished. by the end of the week, regulators forced an emergency takeover by a rival bank to stop contagion. So, in just 11 days in March 2023, Silvergate, SVB, Signature Bank and Credit Suisse collapsed in a single domino chain,